Welcome to Key Biscayne Stories, where neighbors meet neighbors. Today we have Nick Lopez-Jenkins. He is our neighbor running for village council, so we're excited to get to know him. He's been living in the Key for 25 years with his family. How are you doing today?
Doing great.
Awesome. We have Matilda here. We're going to run through a couple of questions that we're trying to be fair or equal with everybody, but let's give it a shot. Here we go.
So what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I will say that the answer to this question a couple of years ago would have probably been different. As a parent now of a 4 and a 6-year-old, as you can tell, I started a little late in life being a parent. But the advice that I've gotten is to take time to really appreciate to see your kids grow. I think if I would have been younger, had my kids at a younger point in time, if my parents would have been the ones telling me that, I probably wouldn't have paid attention like many people. And it would have flown by, and I wouldn't have had any sense of how fast this time goes. But the fact that most of the people telling me the advice now are my friends or contemporaries that have already had their kids, whose kids are already in college, and it really has allowed me to sit back and really appreciate day by day, and just to see how they change and grow. My wife and I, my wife Marina, who's a lovely person and much better than me, who I'm saying hello to right now, who I'm sure listen to this podcast, I hope. She is, like I said, we sat around last night just watching videos of them just a couple of years ago. And it's amazing to see how they've all both changed and grown. So I would tell everyone that when you do have kids, if you're blessed with them, to please take your time, because it does fly by. It's a fantastic experience. It's more important than anything else you do with your life.
So tell us something about yourself that most people don't know.
Well, this is one that I should be embarrassed by, but I'm not. I think I'm a Swiftie, I have to say. So my wife has gotten me listening to Taylor Swift, and I kind of like it. I can't lie. So I think part of it is having had, to a certain extent, a sales and marketing background. I'm just amazed by the level of, I've never seen anything. I guess the closest thing in my adult life to something like a phenomenon like this, I guess, would have been Michael Jackson back in the 80s.
Okay.
Obviously I'm old, but I'm not old enough to remember the Beatles or Elvis or anything like that. But it is crazy how much, and just an incredibly talented person. The fact that it's, like I said, from the singer, songwriter, and actually, the person that plays the instruments and stuff. So yeah, that's, I'm going to stick with that. That's it. So
I like it. Honesty. This is what the show is about.
That's what it's about.
What's the most important thing in your life today?
Well, I'm not going to answer the obvious, because I think I've already touched on that. It's my family, my friendships as well. So as far as, and I'm not going to go public service, because I think that's kind of the gist of this whole podcast. So I don't want to, like I said, milk that subject too much. But I started actually a new company with a couple of people I've met that moved here recently. It's a company that, it's obviously a plug for my company now, but a company that we clean the exterior of high-rise buildings with drones. So it's really cutting-edge technology. It's kind of a really disruptive force in the marketplace. And I'm excited about that and really passionate. I have to say that with the family, with running for office, I used to think I was busy. I think everybody thinks they're busy, but look back, I'm like, man, I was never busy. Now I'm really busy. But it's an enjoyable thing, because it's a passion. It's something I've never had professionally that I can look forward to, and I have a piece of ownership. So that's really important. It's a driving force to help me get to a place professionally where I can have my family secure, going forward. So I'm excited about that. So
I'm curious. So there's like a big drone that just has like
a pretty big drone. It's probably half the size of this table, although probably people can't see this table. It's tethered to a pump system that we have a patent pending on, and it can go 22, 23 stories in the air. And wow. It's high pressure. We do soft wash at high pressure, but it's amazing. We have a deionized water solution that you don't need a squeegee to clean windows, because it's basically perfectly pure water that doesn't leave any kind of residue. So the organic growth. We started in South Florida. Now we're in Jacksonville, Atlanta, Louisiana, and this is all in a matter of 6 months. So it's pretty intense. So.
And do you have the guy use the visor, or is
we have former military guys that actually fly by sight.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it's and these
by
guys.
Sight, you mean as in like.
Exactly. Yeah. They have to keep constant sight with the drone.
Okay.
Like I said, the controller does have camera, and like I said, in case it goes around a corner, but it's pretty cool stuff. You'll see it around Key Biscayne sometime soon. So.
How did you end up in the Key?
So I think it's probably the better question to answer, how did my parents end up here? because I was kind of young when I started coming here. We grew up a little bit all over the country. My parents, like I said, came to the States as refugees. They went through Spain and they came. We started in New Jersey, moved to North Carolina, back to New Jersey, and then I grew up from age 6 to 12 in Lakeland, Florida. And then when we were 12, my parents we had a lot of family down in Miami, and that was kind of the final destination they were looking to be at. So we moved to Miami at that point in time. I enrolled in Belen back in 1982, and I started coming here in the summers. It was just with friends who had places here. We ended up living in Miami and then in Coral Gables for a while, and then my parents moved here in 94, 95. I was already out of the house, and then I was living in the Gables for a little while on my own after college, and then I just decided to move here as well. This was the beach for us. Like I said, nothing else existed. I mean, Miami Beach was never an option. This has been where we had come the whole time. And my parents helped me out buy my first place here back in 96, and I've never really left. So it's funny because I think more importantly, to that point, so many people from where they lived in Cuba all left and spread all around the world or whatever, and now they all live within like 3 square blocks of each other in Key Biscayne because they kind of found the same thing that they had in Varadero where they grew up here in the Key, so that same kind of culture. So like I said, they kind of ended up back here and just like a family tie. Thankfully, they live right across the street from me. As I told you, I've got a 4 and a 6-year-old, so my parents are very helpful with that.
So I know I've been seeing you more and more everywhere, which is awesome to see you participate and engage in the community. So, I mean, the next obvious question is what inspired you to run?
Right.
But from my eyes, I see you everywhere. I see you at the chamber. I see you. So I have a pretty good idea, but for the people.
Well, I have to say, I ran 2 years ago. I fell a little bit short, and I didn't know what my reaction would initially be, not having been successful. And my wife kind of gave perspective, said, look, that you have a learning opportunity here. Every failure is an opportunity to learn and improve. And she was right. And I had actually enjoyed the process, even though in the end it wasn't successful. So I kind of doubled down on everything. I wanted to become more involved. I reached out. The mayor was helpful, and you were helpful to me as well. Just guiding me as far as where I could be useful and provide my skills. I'm now the vice chair of the Virginia Key Advisory Board. I am the co-president of the Key Biscayne 4th of July Parade Committee, which I'm very proud of the parade. And as well, I joined Rotary. I'm the liaison for the Youth Council. All of that stuff, I have to say, almost selfishly, I really enjoy doing because it is an opportunity to give back and help guide. And this community is just, people donate their time, and really smart people, really, people who are very successful carve out time to give back. And it's nice to be in those groups because you learn a lot. Like I said, I don't enter a group thinking that I know everything. I try to be collaborative. I think I have an ability to work with people and accomplish things, and obviously put effort. I think my own effort, like I said, I try to set an example as far as giving back. So I kind of think that, running for council is probably just the next step as far as being able to contribute. I leave it up to the voters of Key Biscayne to decide whether they think I'm a good fit for that. But I think as far as working in a collaborative group, I think I have a lot of ability to do that.
So what are the top issues you think the village is facing? How would you try to tackle them? Or how are you going to focus your term if elected?
We are obviously very privileged to live here. And we have, like I said, we've formed a pretty incredible community. But there are issues that can be built upon and improved on. I think the e-bike situation is probably a good example of this. Obviously, it was a terrible tragedy that led to the council passing a complete ban on them, and I'm actually in support of that. I think it was a tough situation because there are adults that use these micromobility vehicles to come to and from work, and you kind of end up. But we're kind of handcuffed here because on the state level, these things are considered bikes. So basically, you can't really regulate them as far as licensing or insurance or anything else. So until we can work on something like that, so I would like to, and I know this will be like the third bite of the apple, trying to go to the state and getting the actual laws changed as far as recategorizing the electric bikes. I think that's important. I'd love to be part of that process of going and seeing if we can get that moved along. I think being on the Virginia Key Advisory Board has also made me very cognizant of the issues we're having with the causeway. Actually, the causeway, the redevelopment of the Marine Stadium as well, which seems like it might actually possibly be moving forward. And I'd like to be. I've been able to establish some really good relationships on the other side of the bridge with the city of Miami, with Dade County. So I would like to, be able to contribute in those kind of ways. And I think in general, it's just to be a watchdog as far as what's going on from a budgeting standpoint, to make sure that we keep things. I said we're all taxpayers here, and we all have to be present about where costs are going. I think the village does provide some incredible service. I mean, we've all had to deal with government on different levels. I think the most enjoyable experiences I've ever had interacting with government have been with Key Biscayne. I think that comes from the mayor down to the manager. I think our government is very responsive. So I just want to be able to tell you, I said, to be able to focus on that, that we keep a high level of customer service in government, which is not really available in a lot of places when you usually deal with people who are in government. But I think here we're very responsive. I think it's because we're such a small community. So I said, there's no hiding from anybody here. Like they always say, there's only one Winn-Dixie and one Golden Hog, and that's it. So you're going to see everybody there, as you well know. So yeah,
That's right.
So what about
Yeah.
like what's like the issue on like the bikes in the Rican Causeway? Because I know like there's a lot of issues with people like hating it.
Oh, because you go to math.
yes,
I hate it.
yeah.
Like it's just every time I'm driving, they're just always just coming into your lane, and like that's how you cause an accident, especially at 7 a.m. All those kids.
You're talking about the bicyclists, though, not the e-bikes. You're just talking about
No, yeah, the bicycles.
the big pelotons and
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's become a reality here because between Virginia Key, obviously Crandon, and Key Biscayne, it really is the only uninterrupted loop that people on bikes can actually use to ride. So that's why it's gotten so bad here. This is like, and obviously we're like the only hill, in all of South Florida, which is which is on the Rickenbacker. That being said, yeah, it's disturbing and it's scary, because I think there's a psychology that people get in big groups and they think that, well, they're, I don't want to say bulletproof, or for lack of a better word. That's probably not the word I should use considering what happened. But yeah, I know. So, but I said, you know what I mean? It's invincible. Yeah. It's probably the better way to. And it really causes danger. It's not something that's really in the purview of Key Biscayne, just because that really they kind of turn around right before they get to Key Biscayne. So it's more of a county issue. And there obviously is a bike lane there, so that's why it's so frustrating. I mean, there's been times that I've driven out, and it's not only that they're in the bike lane, they're in the next lane, and they're in the other lane. They're really taking up all lanes of traffic, and it's not, and it's a level of a lack of consideration to a certain extent. I think it'll be probably more of a county issue to regulate this, but there should be, like I said, they do have a right to the roadway. There's no doubt about that, but I think there's something that's been lost as just basic consideration as far as being able to share and be respectful of other people. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
disagree with you. So like I said, especially I can imagine going to mass in the morning because it's usually around 7:30, like every day.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little out of control. So, and this is somebody that, like I said, I don't want to say I'm a former bike rider. I can still ride a bike, I'm sure, but I never rode in big groups. I was always afraid that because if there's a wreck or something like that. So I was more of a solo rider, but I totally understand where you're coming from as far as concerned.
To Matilda's point and your point as well, the Rickenbacker Causeway master plan is supposed to address some of the bike issues.
Correct.
It's supposed to be also traffic heavy for the Key because there's a lot of people that come in to the park, to the village. So we'll see what the plan has in store.
We live from a traffic standpoint, just an unbelievably complicated. On a 7-mile stretch of road, you have the city of Miami, you have Miami-Dade County, you have the state of Florida, and you have Key Biscayne, all basically playing it to one central roadway. The fact that we have the Florida State Park at the very end, hopefully will give us some leverage as far as getting stuff done as far as in and out of the island, because I think there's certain things in the legislature that play into access in and out of a state park. The truth is that when there's traffic issues in Key Biscayne, this is not like a Key Biscayne-centric or selfish issue, like, oh, we care about the traffic. On the weekends, it's not Key Biscayneers that are leaving or get stuck in traffic for 4 hours. It's people from all over the county. Mm-hmm. So it's more of like we're trying to help resolve for others, for our neighbors across the bridge, because nobody wants somebody to come with their family, have a great time, and next thing you know, you get stuck in traffic for 4 or 5 hours because there's some huge event on Virginia Key. So, like I said, I hopefully will be working towards something like that. Like I said, I got a lot of insight being on the advisory board, so hopefully we'll be moving forward with something on that sometime soon. So,
Can you share with us some things you believe the Key is doing well?
yeah, sure. I touched on it before. I think the government is incredibly responsive. I think we have just fantastic policemen and firemen. The interactions that you have are really great. In addition, I think when you address council and make it a point, I encourage everybody to go to a council meeting. Might not want to sit through the whole 6-hour council meeting, but at least to show up at the beginning for public comments. You'd be amazed how you can move the needle on certain issues just by making the council aware and engaging. I remember a couple of years ago, I brought up the issue of some additional funding, and it was something that was brought to my attention by some other people, and I just basically helped add a little bit of extra commentary to what people were already bringing up, and by the second time by the next meeting there had already been money put in for some extra special needs program, actually through some state funding as well. So I would encourage people to take advantage of the level of interaction you can have with this government. People will listen to you. If elected, I would say I will listen to you most definitely, because I think we are a representative form of government, and people need to be able to feel that they can approach people. So I think the openness and responsiveness of the village government, I think, is pretty incredible. So I think that's something they're doing very well at this point.
If elected or when elected, you're going to be listening to all sorts of ideas.
Right.
So being able to accept or listen to other people's ideas, especially when they oppose your ideas, I think it's very important. So how do you see yourself working with those that, don't like the things you're doing or oppose the things you're doing?
I'm always open to new information. I am not going into this election or this responsibility with any kind of preconceived notions. I do have some people that I depend on in specific areas, if you want to call them experts, to sit there and kind of I'm not an engineer, I'm not a physician, I'm not a lawyer, so I will have to depend on people to kind of dumb things down for me maybe. But that being said, I don't come out with a specific agenda. I look at things from a standpoint of being somebody who lives here in the village and wants to improve things here. So I will be open to whatever, and I will always listen. And if I end up disagreeing with you because I came to a different conclusion, I'll be able to explain that, and it won't be just because that's my opinion. So I have no problem being collaborative. I've worked in teams my whole life. The company I have now, it's an incredibly diverse group of people that are working together, but we all have the same goal. And I think that's kind of the way I view council as well. We're here to oversee what the actual village government is doing, and we're all pointed in the direction of wanting to make or keep this place the way it is and just improve on what we have. So
when you're elected, or if elected, how would you like to be remembered at the end of your term?
I'd like to be viewed as someone who helped contribute on building upon all the great things that we have here in the Key. About someone who kept or did their best to keep our culture here alive and vibrant. I think we are a very unique place. Anybody that lives here realizes this. The fact that we have a small town feel next to one of the biggest metropolises in the world is kind of crazy, and we'd be able to keep that as far as future generations is so important. I know I told you about my participation in the 4th of July parade, but that really is something that doesn't exist in a lot of places anymore. And we did the 65th year of it this year, and I hope we do 65
Amazing. More
years. So it's kind of, that's the way I would like to do it. I'd like to come in and leave in a way that people could say, I said I helped contribute to keeping Key Biscayne.
What makes you believe that you stand out from other candidates?
I think we have an incredibly talented group of people running this time. I think what really makes me stand out is the fact that I'm doing it again, and that I was able to see it, to try, to fail, and to come back. I think it shows a certain level of determination and tenacity on my part. I think that I've put in the work over the last 2 years to improve my viability to be on council. I feel much more qualified to be able to join council and be able to contribute, not just be able to sit down and listen, but really to be able to, in points an area, and digest information and come back with hopefully, positive solutions.
All right. So the next set of questions are more of a light nature, even though I believe the entire show is kind of like
Yes.
the idea is to be like,
Right.
get to know you on a light note. So after a long, stressful day,
Yeah.
how do you relax?
Stressful day? What are you talking about? I don't have stressful days. I only have, on days that it coincides. My wife works full time, and so do I. So depending on which day of the week it is, one of us will make it a point to cook and get the kids ready and get them bathed or whatever. And occasionally a bottle of wine is opened, a nice bottle of wine. So and that's probably the way that we end it, putting the kids in their pajamas, having a bottle of wine, talking about our days. Well, when we get back together, and kind of planning out the rest of the week. So that's kind of the way we end the day in my house, and usually bed by like 8:30, 9 o'clock. I know that's incredibly lame, but that's the truth. So
Hey, no,
Yeah.
that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine.
What's your go-to meal when you have a last-minute guest for dinner?
all right. So last minute guests, are these adults? Are these children? Are these both? I mean,
A family.
a family. Okay, so I said. I don't want to offend any of my constituents here, so I'm gonna have to say like 10 places. But it's if it's something that I need quick and it gets done and it is kid heavy and stuff like that. I like I said, I love my buddy Caesar at Domino's. He always takes very good care of me. So, and then if it's something maybe a little bit more formal, a little more adult driven, and like I said, it's something you want to have, whatever. Then I go see George at Golden Hog, and he takes really good care of me. We get some great food or some stuff from the grill, which is fantastic, and the bakery there is great. So those two would be my great. And if we're eating out, Milanesa is always, it's because it's always very kid friendly. So it's and they've done a great job with the outdoor patio. I think that's, like I said, with all the stuff that went on with COVID. I mean, a couple of things turned out well, and the fact that they converted that side area to an outdoor seating area was pretty cool. So yeah, those would be my go-to restaurants.
What do you love most about the Key?
There's just, like I said, there's a way that when you come back over the bridge and when you've been working or whatever, you just decompress. It really is. I mean, it's always lost on us, but you just have to remind yourself when you go over the bridge and you see the skyline and you come in here and it's just so relaxed, and your kids can go outside and play and you don't have to be that worried, and you can walk on the beach whenever you want and you have access, and you can just, like I said, it really is something. As stressful as life has become, and from a day-to-day standpoint, there's just something that when you're here, and I am part of the golf cart community, so even when you have to go run an errand, if you could do it in a golf cart, it's not so bad, Say you don't like, whatever, I'm in a golf cart, so it's all of that. It's kind of like I said, it's just that natural stress reliever that and whatever. And you know what, I it's funny because it really is a small town. You have those kind of interactions. I think I probably have more than most at this point in time, just because I've been knocking on people's doors and harassing them on Saturdays. So it's like but that being said, you kind of get like I said, it's not that big a place if you really boil it down. You like I said, if you interact with somebody, you'll see them again. So it's a unique thing. It's not like your typical big city. So I think that part of it is what's really unique and really enticing to someone like me.
What's the perfect weekend in the Key for you?
The perfect weekend in the Key. I have to tell you, this weekend is lining up pretty good. So I'll just, like I said, my wife was off on Friday, so we were able to spend the day. I cut off work a little bit early, had time with the kids, took them to the Village Green, came home, had a nice dinner. Saturday, she did have to work, so that was probably not perfect for her. I was out knocking on doors, like I said, doing my thing. So, but the weather was beautiful. It was a great time. I was able to bring my daughter with me for some time. My son's a little rambunctious. He's still 4, so it's a little wild, man. So, but we got back together, and then today, I'm doing your podcast, which is pretty cool. And afterwards, we'll go to church, grab a quick lunch with my parents, and then we have a play date with the kids and some of their little families. Watch a Dolphin game. Hopefully they win. We'll see. Probably not, but whatever. I get over it. And then we'll head out to the beach, probably like a 5 or 6, and sit out at the beach is what we do. That's our Sunday routine. We just go out to the beach, right before sunset, relax there, chill, and get ready for the week coming up, and kind of the kids, play in the water and stuff. So I said it's not, unless it's raining, it's hard to have a bad weekend in the Keys. So it's I said I enjoy here.
All right, so that's all the questions we have for the candidates. But I do like to thank all the people who are running because it's public service, and it takes a lot of work. There's a lot of effort that goes behind your time that you'll be dedicating. There's a lot of time away from your family, and also learning all the details of everything before you make decisions. So thank you for taking the leap. Also, is there any closing words you'd like to share?
Well, I want to thank both of you for having me. I appreciate it. This is, as always, a fun experience. So you guys make it good, because I think you get a chance to meet somebody in a little less stressful environment. People can be a little bit more natural. I also want to thank, honestly, the residents of Key Biscayne for giving me a second look this time around. It's actually been really positive. As I mentioned before, I was knocking on doors, and everybody's been pretty nice. So I wish I would have invested in Ring, because I think every house in this place has a Ring on it, so it's unbelievable. And I will tell you one funny story. So now I didn't realize, but I guess you can hook up your Ring to like Alexa, something, and it'll say you can leave a message or something like that after it rings. And there was one time that I rang the doorbell, and I'm there with my flyer, my little door hanger, or whatever, and then it rang, and then Alexa came on and said, "Sorry, not interested," and I just said, "Okay." I had never heard that. I was like, funny. I can't believe that's an option. So, but like in general, but aside from that thing, which I thought was funny, I just really want to thank the openness of this whole community, because I think it's good that everybody's taking a look at, and as I mentioned before, there's some great candidates here. So I think this will work itself out. I think the best 3 people will get elected in the end, and then we can move forward in the Key. A lot of big projects looking forward to, and like I said, we have a great community here that we have to nurture and defend, and make sure we keep as special as it is right now.
Awesome. Nick, thank you for jumping on the show.
Appreciate it. You guys have a great Sunday. So
Thank you.
all right.